Hello, welcome back to another segment of A Spiritual Ascension, my own personal 5-year journey. So, when I left off, I was talking about being, I don't even think I was uninvited, not invited to my nephew's wedding, and this aspect of shunning um, that my family was doing to me because I chose to no longer be a part of their religion cult. Um, and that was back in 2012. So now speeding up, and if you, hopefully you've been following along video by video, because I'm telling a story here of my life that led up to my 5-year journey. So this is kind of things that had happened beforehand. So now we're coming up on 2019. And as I said in the last video, my nephew was getting married and I was told that I was not invited to my nephew's wedding because I was no longer a part of their religion. Throughout the years, my sister had, even both of my sisters would send me letters or send me some of their literature, their religious literature in the mail um, to try to encourage me to come back to the religion. And I would always throw it in the garbage. Um, Again, I didn't have any other concept of what God was at that time. So I still had the beliefs, but I didn't believe, it's hard to say. I still believed that there was this God that they told me about, but I didn't believe so much in the organization, especially when 2012 came about and reading and researching about the religion and to understand that they had been a big part of covering over abuse that was going on within the religion worldwide. And I've done a whole video on that if you have been going through each video. So now around 2019, which is a very pivotal year. Um, and I had told you also in 2017, my father had said that I would eventually stop working. And I had almost now been working at my Wall Street company for almost 20 years, and I didn't understand how that was going to happen. So one day I got home from work and there was a letter from my sister. And as I think I had started saying in the last video, um, I was wondering how she had got my address because I think only my mother, I don't even know if my mother had my address. I really don't know how she got my address. So first of all, that blew me away. And it was a letter inviting me to go to their so-called memorial of Jesus' death at the local church congregation that was in my town. And she had the address of where that um, church was. So I was pretty angry, first of all, like, how did you get my information of where I live? You haven't wanted to do had anything to do with me in all these years. So it kind of felt almost like stalkish in a way. For you now to have the audacity to give me instructions to go to this place on this date to hear information that I haven't wanted to hear in over 20 years. And she also sent along like a pamphlet on, I don't know if it was one of their magazines or some kind of literature. So I sat with it for a couple days and remembering what she had said to me on the phone when she had told me I was not allowed to come to her son's wedding because my very being in the atmosphere there at the church where my nephew was getting married would somehow defile his marriage, and she wanted his marriage to be blessed. So with my very presence, essence there, um, that would lead to somehow his marriage falling apart. I don't know. I don't know. Um, so after a couple of days, I wrote a letter back to her, and I said to her, like almost kind of, how dare you write me a letter and invite me to attend your a religious a religious ceremony for a religion that allowed someone within your organization to defile me as a child, and then they covered it over. And the thing was, when that had happened, hopefully you go back and you've seen that video. When that happened, I remember I was only about 4 or 5 years old. The next morning, um, I remember sitting there and I was crying and I was trying to explain to my mother what had happened. And, for, a child that age, it's hard to get the words out of like, I don't know what happened, but something I know wasn't right happened. And I remember my two sisters were sitting in the kitchen nearby and they were eating their morning breakfast. I mean, their morning cereal. I remember cereal. And when I walked out of the bathroom, my mother had said, I'm going to go tell Daddy and Daddy will take care of it. When I walked out crying, having like crying from that, and opened the door and I saw my two sisters' faces, they kind of looked like, deer in headlights, like, oh my God, we can't, like, they were super young also. So one may have been my sister, whose son got married, probably was around 10, and my other sister was probably around 12. And I just remember the looks on their faces like, oh my God, like, we can't believe this happened to you. So in the letter saying, you know what happened to me as a child, but you continue to support this religion who allowed this to happen and also covered it over. Like, how dare you, you know? So in the letter, the literature, whatever she had sent me, I put it back, I put it in the envelope with my letter. And at the end of the letter, I said, in PS, I do not want this literature in my house because I'm afraid that it will defile my house in some way. Whatever she had said to me, kind of that day on the phone, like my presence and being at her son's wedding will defile his wedding, his marriage. Her literature from her organization, from her religion, being in my house, that energy, I did not want it in my house. This was an organization who had taken the innocence. I'm sorry, I'm getting worked up. I'm gonna start tearing up here. Had taken my innocence as a child and allowed for it and then covered it over. So um I I did I that it's funny because I told her also in that letter that until you come to me as my blood sister, as my true sister, I never want to hear from you again. And to this day, I've never heard from her again. Do I miss my sisters? I miss what we had as children, My father every summer would pack us all up in August, and we had a big Chevy station wagon, and he would take us on a month-long trip across country. And it was so exciting because we would leave about 4 or 5 in the morning, and like the car was packed up before the night before, and he would always have one of those U-Hauls on top of the um, station wagon. And we would bring our blankets and pillows and made little beds. My sisters would be way in the back in the station wagon, and I would be kind of next to my mother in the back seat. We made little like beds. My father would take us across country for a whole month. And so I've been to all 48 continental states by car and have seen practically every historic site there is to see, every um, national park, state park, the sequoias, the Badlands, South Dakota, um, the redwoods, Mount Rushmore, the Hoover Dam, you name it, I've seen it. And that's all to being so thankful to my father for having given me that experience as a child. And those were the times that I remember being with my sisters and the good times, you know. Sometimes we wouldn't get back till like the day before I had to go back to school in September, and rushing to get back and, you know, go to school the next day. But those were amazing times, and I'm so thankful for that. And I keep saying to myself, I'm going to do that one day. Um, again, to take myself across country and just to see the majestic of this country, which is which is extremely beautiful country. So um, we're gonna land back in 2019. Just a lot more to tell you about 2019 because it was a very pivotal year for me. But I wanted to share that part with you. Okay, so please like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to spend time with me talking about my own journey, your journey, there's a link below to book time with me. I've also have done several courses on the Ascension process, and the link for that is also below. And please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.